Brother
Look at
Wood, we
that.
are live.
We are live, Brother Brown. How you doing, man?
As always, better than I deserve.
Excellent. Always glad to hear it. So we're going to meditate on the election this morning, are we?
I didn't know what else to call it, man. It's kind
Yeah.
of, ruminating post-election, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to blindside you with the blind slide. Oh boy, there's a Freudian slip. I'm going to blindside you with the slides today because I forgot to send them to you last night after I made them up. So, yeah.
I like that word, blind slide.
I'm not
Yeah, that's
properly
happened with-
caffeinated yet this morning, you know?
That has actually happened. I've been blind slided a couple of times.
Yeah, for sure. So, shall we dive right in?
Yeah, my friend, go for
All
it.
right. So, Fear Greed Index, we always start off with that, of course. Excuse me. And we're at 61. Prior to the election, that was down around 49. I wonder what could be driving the market right about now.
Weird.
It is.
I know I've
weird,
seen
isn't
some
it?
good returns this week. How about you?
Yes, absolutely. I have. It's been a wonderful week for the stock market.
Mhm.
And speaking of the stock market, I was talking with a friend yesterday, and I haven't really followed, much of it. Matter of fact, election night, I watched zero coverage.
Really?
Zero coverage on election night because I had to be up super early the next morning, and did not want to get myself spun up one way or the other. So I watched none of it and actually walked downstairs to the hotel lobby and had to ask the guy I was flying with who won. So
And that's how you found out?
that's how I found out. Yeah. So it was refreshingly calm on election night. Um, so anyway, he was talking about some of the people that Trump has already put forth to put up there. I guess his chief of staff is going to be the lady who ran his campaign, whose name I don't even know.
Is it Wise or something like that?
Yeah, and I can't remember her first name, but obviously did a heck of a job on the campaign. And contrary to what Mark Cuban says, Trump can surround himself with strong women, apparently.
Of course he can. Look at his daughters and his wives. He's empowered all of them. Come on.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
That's a bogus claim.
So yeah, but one of the he's going to replace the rumor or whatever you want to call it is he wants to replace Gary Gensler, who's in charge of the Securities and Exchange Commission, with Kathy Wood, who runs the ARK funds. Very pro Bitcoin, very pro technology, very how do I put it? Free market, I guess. Not looking to break everything up like Gary Gensler has been. So that should all be positive for the markets. So
I want to talk about that women comment. I had breakfast yesterday with some folks, and one of them was a woman that I love and respect dearly. And she said, "Man, I really don't want to say this." I said, Go ahead, say it. Finally, she said, we were sitting in a really nice diner, and she said, "I don't know that a woman should ever become president." I'm like, let me stop you there. Margaret Thatcher, Golda Meir, I could go all day long. It has nothing to do with the gender. And has everything to do with that person. Look at this campaign this woman just ran. One of the will be studied forever. I mean, a damn near flawless presidential campaign. And I have all the faith and confidence in her ability to be an outstanding chief of staff. Well, time will tell, but I mean, now will the world test you? Of course. Look at Margaret Thatcher, the Argentinian junta, the military commanders. They invaded the Falklands immediately, like perceiving her as weak. Golda Meir, the 6 days, the Yom Kippur War, whatever you want to call it, all the nations attacked immediately because they thought she was a woman, she'd be weak. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. I mean, while I in the past was not crazy about her Second Amendment stance, even though she was a Democrat at the time, I could have seen myself voting for Tulsi Gabbard.
And I may vote for her one day. I look for, that change she did, because she did it the right way. She issued a statement. I was wrong. She took full accountability for her previous position, why she had held that position, and then why she had changed. I thought that was classy.
Yeah, very much so. And that's all you can ask from anyone, right? I mean, if they realize they're on the wrong side of an issue, they come on and say, "I was wrong. Here's what I thought before. Here's what I think now." How else does anybody grow, right?
You don't.
Yeah. So, yeah, couldn't be happier with her change on that. So, um, now obviously Biden did not run, but it's the same mentality. Matter of fact, as I was doing the research yesterday afternoon, um, the I did come across a quote that where Harris said that somebody asked her, "What would you have done differently than Biden did?" or something like that, and she said, "Nothing."
Yeah, she stated it twice.
Yeah.
They
So
threw
that's why
that
I left this
softball
Biden.
to her twice,
That's
man.
that's why that's why I left the left this up there.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Susie Wiles is will be the chief of staff and was running the campaign.
And I'm not sure why we're not seeing people's names this morning. Are you seeing that on your end, Will?
Yeah, I'm just seeing a Facebook user. It's odd.
Yeah, I don't know what that's
Huh,
about.
that's odd. Now, if
Sorry,
Harris had
guys. I
won,
don't
I
know
would
who.
expect to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is, I mean, to me, this was the dichotomy of it, right?
Mhm.
We know all about his almost Biden's almost movie-esque speech with the red background and the Marines in the background, and chose this screenshot of it because I think that body language sums up that speech, right?
Well, Will,
Um,
I could not. I got to commend you for this one, man. This is one of the most apropos uh, photo contrast dichotomies, whatever you want to call it, I've ever seen to juxtapose, because this speaks to the vision for the future for these two men. You know, there was really two, if you look back 20, 30, 40 years, 60 years, wherever you want to go, the margin between the two visions for each future was so razor thin. They were just, we're just splitting hairs on.
mhm,
He wants to reduce it by 6 points. I want to reduce it by 4, you know?
mhm,
But
yeah.
this is really a completely different vision for our future here.
You know, and well, first, thanks for the kind words, brother. I appreciate it. You know, also just as you were talking about that difference in the vision, I mean, this is almost a Carter Reagan type dichotomy in worldviews, in how they view America,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, the you know, you look at the Biden, it was all about the machine, right? And with Trump, it's all about the people, fight the machine, which
Yes.
I forget who it was, and if I can remember, I'll say. Oh, it was Joe Rogan. Was talking about how it used to be if you wanted to, fight the machine, you were a Democrat. Now, if you
Yeah.
want to fight the machine, you're a Republican because the machine turned into the left.
Isn't that crazy?
It is, yeah. Humans are funny creatures, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, um, this one we all know this. Now, what gets me about this one is what's going on with Nevada and Arizona.
I know.
Seriously, I mean, they're just trying to keep the electoral college and popular vote from looking like the blowout that it is. It's the only thing I can think of. You know, it's just, oh, let's just slow down here and take our time. By the way, disclaimer, guys, I'm not even going to try and be nonpartisan on this show. Usually, I try to walk
Yeah,
that
me either.
line pretty good. Not even trying on this one.
Mm-mm.
Matter of fact, I'm probably going to get out some pent up partisanship on this show. So,
Ooh.
yeah, buckle up.
I might join you on that one.
All right, man. So, the we've seen this map, we've seen it everywhere. The What I really got out of it, matter of fact, we go to the next slide. I think it sums it up even better there, brother. Oh,
Oh yeah, I saw
that'll
that.
lead us here. This one, I ran across this one, I think on Twitter. I mean, California turning back red. Let's remember, at one point, California was a red state. They
Yeah.
elected Ronald Reagan as governor and then voted for him, I believe, twice for president.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a big change. And then this leads us into the nationwide one, which is the next slide.
Look at
Now,
that.
this one looks really busy. And you'll notice, please note where I got it at. Okay. I spent
Yeah.
a lot of time on MSNBC's YouTube feed last night. Not to worry, I doubled up on alcohol rations after that.
Yeah, good.
But
Make
actually,
sure
it
you
was.
delouse as well. Get all that.
But the other side of it too was it was honestly great watching them melt down. So,
Mm-hmm.
the think of these as push pins on the map, one per county.
Mm-hmm.
And the color of the pin obviously is which way the county voted, but the length of it is how much more it went in that direction versus the other. So the long red means it went from either already red to more red or went from blue to red, and by that much. Look at that. And
Wow.
if we go back 2 slides,
Okay.
we look at this one. I don't have the county map out. I wasn't thinking along these lines when I did this, but if we look at the counties, it's even more so. Remember that Trump Hillary map that went
Mhm.
around forever with the counties? It's even more so now. And
I want to know,
Trump,
Will, where did 15 million votes go from 2020 to 2024? Have you figured that one out yet?
we're not supposed to talk about that.
Well, hopefully we get to that
Yeah.
at some point because
Yeah.
I think it's going to be
No, actually, I
important.
didn't put it in here, but it was, yeah, absolutely. So I am convinced. I was convinced before. I'm more convinced now. 2020 was right.
100%.
Period. Dot. End. This proved it. I mean, when a half black, half Asian female who was, according to the polls, incredibly popular, gets not only fewer votes nationwide than Biden, she didn't beat him in a single state.
That's right.
Yeah,
You talking about swing state, right?
any state. She did not outperform Biden in any single
I
state.
got you.
Not one. How is that possible?
I know, man. And let's go
I
back
got a
to your
little.
point
I got a
about
little
counties, Will.
tinfoil. I got a little tinfoil hat for you at the end
I
too.
can't wait to hear that. But
Yeah.
you know,
So-
you mentioned counties, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Oklahoma and West Virginia definitely got it. Not a
Mhm.
single county.
I
And
saw the
others-
Oklahoma one. Did West Virginia was the same way?
West Virginia was, and there was several that had only 1 or 2 counties. I mean, several, maybe 7.
Yeah. I saw a thing on Facebook this morning, as a matter of fact, and it said there's no such thing as a perfect state. And it said Oklahoma, hold my beer, and it showed every county as red.
And
So-
I haven't seen anything like this in my lifetime since, you know, Reagan Mondale.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. So it's and even a lot of these, like Virginia, wouldn't be blue if it wasn't for, Nova. If it wasn't for
Mhm.
Northern Virginia, the people coming over from DC for a cheaper cost of living, because Virginia was reliably red before all the DC critters started sliding in there.
Swamp critters. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, I'm sure.
And and if we, even with this map, you look at the Virginia area on this map, it's more red than it was before. That whole area. And
Mhm.
this is where Trump was, and I'll put it on. I forgot the name already. Susie, what was it? I want to give her credit.
Susie Wiles.
Susie Wiles, brilliant. This is the big tent Republican campaign.
Mm-hmm.
More Hispanics voted for him. More blacks voted for him. Specifically, more black men. Right, and we're going to get into some clips here coming up. So I don't want to get too far down that road because we got some videos to play here. So be ready for that, brother. So,
and the fact that she is doing this, I mean, she could right now, as a political strategist, and I'm sure maybe some of her deputies and some of her folks on her team are going to make a ton of money.
mhm.
People how to run a campaign over the country. I was surprised to read that, and I read several, at least 3 or 4 different political operatives that wrote books, and they're like, I ran a successful campaign for Reagan or Bush, and then I went to Latin America and just cleaned house, making money,
Mhm.
showing you how to run a successful campaign, and but she's going to be a public servant, which God bless her, man.
Yeah, and if some point she writes a book, I'm probably going to buy it.
Hell yeah.
So, a Facebook user, sorry guys, that's all we see right now, as you can see on the screen. I wonder how many illegal aliens voted for him. I saw one. I'm going to put this out there because we're not even pretending to be neutral on this show. So I'm going to put this out there with the asterisk by it. I did some back of the envelope research last night. The thing you see going around is that every state Harris won does not require voter ID. That is not true. However, the majority of them do not.
Okay.
So
yeah, we may need to dig in. Next time we come on here, I might have to do some digging on that, because that is a telling
yeah
thing.
what I did, brother, is
It
I
takes
just went
no
through,
voter ID for you to win. You see what I'm saying?
yeah. Oh yeah.
You're kidding me?
Yeah. The what I did was I'll find the links for you if you want to dig into it. I'll email them to you.
Okay.
So you want to, that YouTube address there at the bottom of the yellow, brother, you want to load that one up?
Ooh, I would
So-
if I could. Let me see here.
Do you need the
Go
slide
ahead, go
deck?
Yeah, I don't have the slide deck, remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. Hang on a second. Joys of a live show, guys. Stand by.
And while Will is tubing that up, toward the end of the show, I've got some bullet points I want to talk about relative to this, because Trump has been putting out his agenda,
Mhm.
and I just almost wept when I was, Lisa and I were out of town. I was living in a suite in a beautiful hotel, and I'm just like, oh my God, honey, you got to see this. I love this agenda, and I want to speak to some of it later.
I just sent it to you, brothers. I'm not sure how to load it up on
Okay.
StreamYard,
Let's see
so
here.
it's in your email. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. Sorry about that.
No
So,
problem. Give us uno momento.
another Facebook user says this was a must win for those of us who embrace the second, for sure. And I was looking back on that, I don't remember seeing the panic in the community like we saw when it was Trump and Clinton. I remember seeing a lot of panic before that one. Now maybe it's because we just came off 8 years of Obama, where there's a lot of moves against the Second Amendment. But now that this is brought up, I'm surprised we did not see that, because for sure she would have run with a very anti-Second Amendment administration.
Nobody sold more guns than President Obama. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I know I ran out and bought some.
Well, I did too, and then I made some money. I'll never forget this. The freaking mall ninjas. Remember, maybe they still have them on there. When you get your PMag, it's got that little dust cover thing on the top of it that any reasonable human throws away as soon as they get it, right? Yeah, I remember that everything was going nuts after Sandy Hook, right? And I remember I laid 10 of those out on a washcloth on my kitchen counter, took a picture, put them on eBay, sold it for $75.
The damn little garbage dust covers?
Yeah. Yep. Nothing else, just those. Yeah. I was like, oh, thanks for the easiest $75 I ever made. I had to dig 2 of them out of the garbage.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it was crazy.
My buddy bought some. He's new to shooting, and he's like, what am I supposed to do with these, Rich? And I said, hand them to me, pal. Throw them in the trash without even asking.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of those for you. All right, Will, give me just 1 second, my friend.
Yeah,
I have it now in my
no sweat. That's on me for not getting it to you last night.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thank you for doing all the heavy lifting as usual.
You know what? I want to talk about this one a little bit from another Facebook user. I don't know what's going on with that, guys. This user says he's so thankful, got this election done and show them what the country wants. You know what? And I just saw this morning on Drudge Report. 7 Illinois counties voted to secede or start the process or explore the process or whatever it was. And they're like, yeah, basically Illinois, if you don't live in Cook County, which is Chicago, you don't get any representation. And that's really at the state level or the national level. And as a reformed fib myself, if you don't know what that is, it is not friendly Illinois brother. It'd be an effing Illinois bastard. Or it could be a fish tab, which I'll just go ahead. It's effing Illinois shithead towing a boat. That's what us cheeseheads call them. So anyway, but that's been an ongoing frustration for a lot of people I know in Illinois. It's like, why even bother voting? Why anything? Right. So, yep.
All right, let's go ahead and tube this up here.
There are so many questions for the Democrats to answer, but one of them, the one that's that I just saw, that's going to be staring them in the face for some time if they don't do something about it, is that 45% of Hispanics voted for Donald Trump.
45.
We've all been talking about a new Republican Party. There needs to be a new Republican Party. This morning, this is about as bleak as any time for Democrats since the so-called 1984 San Francisco Democrats. It's time for the Democrats to take a good, long, hard look at how this happened. And if they just say Trump bad, Democrats virtuous, they're going to keep losing, because this, again, is so widespread. This is not about just Donald Trump. This is about the Democratic Party and being radically disconnected from the rest of the country. Look at the map. There are so many questions for the Democrats to answer, but one of them, the one that's that I just saw.
Yeah. So, this is, what's his name? Mr. Wonderful. Kevin, whatever his name is, from Shark
Joe
Tank.
Scarborough? You talking about that club?
No, not Scarborough there. To dovetail into his comments, the the guy from Shark Tank, Kevin, they call him Mr. Wonderful.
O'Leary.
Yeah. O'Leary, yeah. He was on Fox and talking about this, and I was rewatching the election night coverage, and he was like, "This is a great opportunity for the Democrats." Because you think about it, this is what the Republicans had to go through after, I mean, take your pick, after 08,
Mhm.
12, right? Had to really think about where they were and then fix it, right?
Yeah.
So, and O'Leary was talking about it on Fox, and there was some Democrat opinion person up there, a lady. And, Kevin O'Leary was saying, well, Democrats don't want to hear this. And she was like, yeah, you're right, we don't. But to what Scarborough was saying, this is, if the Democrats just keep going Trump orange man bad, they're just going to keep losing. So in the end, I think this is good for the country.
It 100% is good for the country. This is what it's about, really. I mean, isn't it? I mean, and the best disinfectant is sunlight. The Democrats need to drag this out and look at it because, and here's another thing that really bothers me, and I don't have this in my notes, so let's go ahead and get it out of the way now. The fact that there should have been no concession, and let me say that again. There should have been no concession from the left. They should have launched immediately into Civil War 3.0 in my opinion, because you call this guy Hitler, man. You don't concede to Hitler. You fight Hitler tooth and nail to the bloody end. And the fact that these people are, if that's your message and you believe it with all your heart, then you are morally bankrupt if you don't do everything in your power to destroy him and his legions. I mean, seriously, think about it.
Yeah.
To come out the next day and like, I look forward to Donald's presidency. We're going to make sure there's a peaceful transition of power. A peaceful transition of power to the man you've called a Nazi.
Yeah. And Biden calling him and saying, we'll make sure there's a peaceful transition of power. No, you don't do that.
Would you peacefully transition power to frickin' the devil himself, the man that killed 6 million Jews and gays and all these other marginalized people across Europe? Hell no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely not. So
we have another thing here, Mr. Will. You need to go ahead and tube that one up as well.
Let me see. I'm trying to remember what's up next. Oh yeah. Please
Jake
do.
Tapper.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you to the 12 folks watching us live. Like and share. And we'll get you taken care of here.
Oh, actually, there's one right after that before the Jake Tapper one, bud.
I think that was what I had on my screen. Yeah, that's the one.
There's
Oh, I see it. MSNBC.
Yeah, that one there.
Boy, I tell you what, hired help ain't what it used to be. That will.
I'm telling you, that's it. 50% pay cut right now.
I took. All right, let me tune this one up. I got a lot of comments coming in. Thank you guys for joining us here. We'll get to some of those comments hopefully a little bit later.
Yeah, sorry for the delays and not being too seamless here this morning, guys. I forgot to get Rich the slide deck last night.
It happens. That's exactly what I hear. What Yamiche just said is what I hear from all the Trump supporters that I talk to who were Trump voters and are still Trump supporters. They go, yeah, you guys are going crazy. He's doing, what are you so surprised about? He's doing exactly what he said he's going to do.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah, if you look at the...
Okay, so that's a classic clip from 7 years ago, guys. And I'm bringing that one back because, of course, Mika says that's our job to, tell people what to think. And I see this as part of the larger trend. Again, the media totally screwed up which way the election was going to go, right? And then Joe Scarborough on the clip previous to that talks about how the Democrats need to, think about what they're doing. Well, the media does too. And this is why media companies keep struggling, because they're not rethinking what they do.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree with you. Yeah.
So, I think it would be good for all media, including those on the right, rethink what you're doing. You want the
Uh-huh.
trust of the people back. They want to see power not migrate towards a Joe Rogan, towards that long format sort of thing. They need to do something about it. And, people say, well, American public doesn't have the attention span for that. Well, then why does Rogan get so many views when his average length of show is 2 hours and a lot of them are more than 3?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's all.
I completely dismissed that. So,
100%.
I bring up that one from 7 years ago. A, as a reminder of what they really think, and B, we may see some changes in media, which again, just like changes in the Democratic Party, will be a good thing because that competition between ideas of the Democrats come back away from the crazy woke garbage. The Republicans will have to get better too, and that's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yep. So now let's do this Jake Tapper one. This one's good.
Okay.
You asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
By 3% or more. At
By
least
three-
in the county right now. And so you come in full county there. So there you see, but that's states. Yeah. So in counties, in 58 counties.
Holy moly. That was
So
amazing.
at that time in the counting, Harris had not outperformed Biden in a single county. How does that happen? I mean, yeah.
What we
there
started
was-
this with, where do the 15 million votes go? That's what
Yeah.
I'm looking for.
Exactly right. Yep. There. Hold on.
Are they in there, Will?
No, it must be at your house, man. They ain't here.
Ah,
So,
crap. Yeah,
yep.
it's a shame.
Yep, for sure. And Jeff here brings up a great point. Trump is gone in 4 years. So, we can't sit back on our laurels here either and just be like, oh yeah, just press on. Right? No. And we need to go on from there, right? And figure out what's going on. And I'm trying to find, somebody had a comment in there. I think it was Vance in 28 and Tulsi Gabbard in 36.
Yeah.
But those are the long-term plans that need to be put out there, right?
Agreed.
So, and this one,
Yeah.
please
I love
read that
that
one
one.
off from Anthony. Yeah.
Thinking of the 15 folks watching us live. When Democrats turned away all the Bernie bros, they went to Trump. Bernie and Trump had the same message from different sides. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more. I've said for years that if they would have put Bernie up against Trump in 16, Bernie would have won.
Wow. Yeah.
I believe that completely. Because if nothing else, I mean, I don't agree with his ideas. But he's got more of that grandfatherly, not in your face sort of thing. And people, I don't mind Trump's in your face stuff, but a lot of people get turned off by that, especially suburban women.
You're
Caring
hiring a
about
guy
it.
to do a job. You know what
Oh,
I'm saying?
I agree, but
Yeah,
that not everybody thinks
it.
like that. You know what I'm saying, brother? So
Yeah.
Bernie had that kind of, he's got his socialist grandpa shtick going on, right?
Mhm.
So, I think he would have won back then, but Bernie wasn't enough of the machine, I think, for the left at the time. So, and of course, our previous clips lead us into this from CNN Business. You want to read this off, please, sir?
Yeah, I'd love to. Trump's return to power raises serious questions about the media's credibility. Shocker, spoiler alert. A quote in a recent New York Magazine column channeled that question. The quote from an anonymous TV executive was recirculated on social media Wednesday morning. Quote, if half the country has decided that Trump is qualified to be president, that means they're not reading any of this media, and we've lost this audience completely, the executive said. Quote, a Trump victory means mainstream media is dead in its current form. And the question is, what does it look like after this?
Yeah. And I think, and this is also going to bring about a squeaky shoe noise as my son walks behind me is what that's going to bring on. That was Mason. So that was this
Sorry
is
about
a
that. I'm giving up
realization. So this is a realization from the media that, hey, we've lost the people. So now the media, I think, is going to start changing because we know what the ratings have done for, CNN, MSNBC, all these folks, right? So they're going to change, but that change is going to be messy. So this is another thing for us to prepare for, I think, going back to our themes of emerging threats and preparedness, is when this change happens, it's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. Now, I'm just going to suppose here. Let's suppose CNN visibly tacks towards the middle. Well, there's a lot of people who watch CNN who are more on the left who are suddenly going to be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Now, it's easy to say, oh, they're a bunch. Well, it's easy to honestly be a jerk and be like, oh, they're mind-numbed robots. They'll move to the center along with, what they're told. Well, even if they do, that's going to be uncomfortable for a period of time. And that's going to come out in society, just like we're seeing a lot of other things come out in society too. So people don't like change. None of us do, right?
Yeah, but growth only occurs outside your comfort zone. I mean, literally, we had an AWS shirt that said that.
Yes, absolutely. So, and while I agree with you, it's also most people don't like being uncomfortable.
Hell no,
right?
they don't.
So
I don't like being uncomfortable. Let's be honest. I'm a human being.
I don't either. Absolutely not. I mean, that's why I'm still gun Amish. I'm not running red dots on everything yet. Right. So but that uncomfortableness, just like we've seen for the last 4 years with inflation and all these other things that are going on, that people being uncomfortable makes society uncomfortable. And that strife is going to come out. It's all part of the fourth turning, right? So, that's where it's at. Now, this one I really enjoyed. Now, Stephen A. Smith, he and I, we could probably sit down and have a beer and talk about sports or whatever. But if we talked politics, it probably wouldn't go too well, right? Okay. But what he talks about here is also what I see as part of the whole media thing and why they were surprised Trump won again. And I also see Mr. Smith, I'm going to give him his props on this one, waking up a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
So
before I go any further, I want you to hear exactly what this man had to say.
I'm speaking to them directly. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. That's not acceptable.
Respectfully, President Obama, what you said is not acceptable. Is it possible that the only reason some black folks may not be inclined to vote, or they may be a bit disenchanted, or dare I say may even be willing to go as far as voting for Trump, is it possible that it's policy as opposed to misogyny, inflation, the cost of living, the price of gas, the price of groceries? That don't matter? When the mayor of New York was talking about $53 million in prepaid credit cards for immigrants who came across our borders illegally and having prepaid credit cards for them. And I said, wait a minute, black folks been starving for years. We ain't get that. Before I go any further,
wow,
I want you to hear.
Yeah. So, people are getting fed up and they're seeing what's happening, right? And it started with those of us on the right going, well, it's all these prepaid credit cards, stay in hotels, blah, blah, blah. And we've seen it also in Chicago. People going, well, what do you mean? There wasn't room in the budget for to rebuild the playground or build a playground for our kids in what was a black neighborhood, because that was the news report. It is what it is. But the city of Chicago had enough money to house illegals in hotels and hand them prepaid credit cards, and people were pissed, and I don't blame them.
Now they should be.
So this is what's coming out, and now it's showing up in a guy who's pretty far left, in my opinion, with Stephen A. Smith, and he's angry.
They should be angry. If you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention. To be honest with you.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's probably what 99% of the time when we're dealing with politics. Period. So,
all right, you ready for the next one? Biden?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
One more thing Trump and his Republican friends want to do. They want another giant tax cut for the wealthy. Now, I know some of you guys are tempted to think it's macho guy. I'll tell you what, man. When I was in Scranton, we used to have a little trouble going down the plot once in a while. But I'm serious. These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
You can stop it there.
Okay.
But my point of putting this one up there is, can you imagine if Trump would have said that, what, 2 days before the election?
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, can
Trump
you imagine
wants
if-
to assault everybody. in the
Exactly.
bodily regions.
Right.
Like,
and this goes back to the whole media thing, right? And because it's Biden, and we all know he's, beyond lame duck, right? It just gets passed over, which I can understand as well. But they wouldn't have given if it would have been, I don't know, President fill in the blank Republican who's a lame duck. They wouldn't have given that pass. So, yeah. So that's just, to me, more of the media problem, right? Now I'm gonna probably take a few people off for this one. So
get ready to hit your end, click at this.
So here's the thing, and I got the side eye from my bride last night when I was talking about this. What really changed when Trump got elected? When we're talking, just talk economics for a moment. What really changed? Nothing.
Not a thing.
Right. National debt's still out of control.
Yep.
Right. Interest rates are still very high.
Correct.
Inflation is still higher than target. Right. Housing unaffordable. Right. None of these things change. Now, we hope he'll be able to change those things. Right. But that's going to be a process, and it's going to take time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no two ways about it. Tariffs, love them, hate them, whatever. We can debate that, how, whatever. They are inflationary initially.
100%.
Period. End. They are. Okay. And he wants to do a lot of tariffs. Now, will it be what he's stumped for that much? Probably not. That's Trump negotiating, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to ask for a 400% tariff and settle for 28%, right? But that's just negotiating 101, right? So that takes care of the top one, because I do expect inflation to come back. Okay. Now we can, put on there, well, yeah, the BLS, puts that data out, so on and so forth. Will they massage those numbers the other way? Yeah, could be. Right. But we have to understand this is going to be a process. Right. And nothing has actually changed. And let's face it, Trump was not a deficit hawk. Even he put the COVID spending aside, he spent money like a slightly less drunk sailor than Biden did.
Yep.
Okay. But still spent like a drunken sailor. So this is something that those of us on the right have to acknowledge and then hold their feet to the fire and be like, nope, you need to take care of this. Right. And the bottom one here is the same thing that helped get Trump elected, which was the higher prices. Yes, inflation's come down. Prices are still considerably higher than they were before. The other side of this is that if inflation starts coming back, then a lot of Trump's words are going to come back to haunt him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And, Anthony here, tax cuts were all deficit spending. Yeah. And until whatever, if we wait for tariffs to kick in, cut government spending, which would be more my way of advocating for it. Cutting regulation here is this. Sorry, guys, I always see his Facebook user this morning for some reason. All these things happen, right? So, and when let's just say magic wand, I'm not sure. I'm going to say January 20th. I don't know what the exact date is is it always January 20th? The inauguration?
I don't know that it's always January 20th, but it seems to be.
And maybe that is. A lot of those are set up as like, the election is the first Tuesday in November. So anyway, I'll say January 20th. Trump comes in, waves magic wand, and income taxes get dropped. Well, that's inflationary because you just put more money into the economy, right? And people are going to spend it, because that's what humans do, especially American humans, right? So my point is that isn't to throw cold water on people who are celebrating that Trump won. It's also, we need to be realistic about what could be coming here too.
Mm-hmm.
So, just something.
Can I speak to that?
Please do.
Okay, man. I'm going to get to some of Anthony's comments. Tariffs are going to wreck the economy. Maybe it depends on what you mean by wreck it. Again, it's like, oh my God, Rich just wrecked those 3 eggs. Yeah, to make a freaking omelet, I had to. I'm like, but the eggs can't be, you can't realize the omelet until you break the eggs. And I think in this case, I kind of side to that. In the long term, the tariffs are going to work because it's going to hopefully bring manufacturing back.
Mhm.
We'll get some money from it. But I remember until the 19th Amendment, tariffs was it, baby. You know, that's how we got our money. And we kept manufacturing here. And I remember talking to I saw my father do this, my whole childhood. I'm like, why is dad in India? Why is dad in Taiwan? Why is my dad in Japan? Why is my dad in Mexico? Why is he in Canada? Why? Because of people like Mitt Romney and Bain Capital and all these other companies that helped American companies offshore everything.
Mhm.
You want here, it's cheaper, and Americans love cheaper. I love cheaper, but at the expense of what? At the expense of the future of our economy. So yeah, in order to get it back, we're going to have to institute tariffs. Now, the problem is managing the tariff escalation. It needs very, very precise and incremental. And it's still going to be painful, even if taking medicine is often painful. You know what I mean? Needle, the cough syrup sucks, but we have to do it. It's going to encourage the right thing over time. It may take a generation. It ain't going to be fixed in 2 to 4 years. So we got to stop thinking short term like Americans love to do. This quarter, that quarter, this trimester, that trimester, this election cycle. We got to think long term. What do we need? What viability do we need to survive? We need to tap in to our untapped wealth under our feet. We have some of the greatest geology that's ever been that we're going to pull from in order to make our country stronger in this coming economy. We're going to bring manufacturing back. I mean, we have to do that because we've already seen that this Thomas Friedman idea, the world is flat and hot and overcrowded, whatever the hell his books were about. I didn't really care for them, but offshoring everything turns out might not be a good idea.
Yeah, COVID taught us that, right?
That's exactly right.
To your point about the tariffs, I mean, and I've talked about it on the show before, the only reason Harley is still in business is tariffs.
Yes.
I don't see anybody complaining about that because back in that day, back in the 80s, I wanted my rice rocket and I had to pay a tariff on any foreign built bike. Unless it was below some really low number, like 50 cc's, which nobody would buy to go fast. But that's big. That let Harley get their feet back underneath them. Same thing, auto manufacturing. I'm not sure if it was tariffs or how it was managed, but there's a reason there's Toyota plants all over the South. And that was because if the car was built here in the U.S., I'm pretty sure it was a tariff. There was no tariff on it. So I stand by to be corrected on exactly whether it was tariffs or some other instrument that was used to, encourage them to do that. But that's why that happened. Now, short term, back to our point, tariffs will raise prices initially until that manufacturing comes back. The manufacturing is already coming back.
Yeah.
We're in a post-COVID world. And that's probably some of what's causing this inflation. How much? I have no idea. And I don't think anybody can really measure that at this point. But it will be that. But that's like you say, that's short-term quarter-to-quarter thinking. And that's how we got to where we are.
Yes, 100%. That's how we got to the financial crisis.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's all short-term thinking. And if we really give a shit about our children, and that's the other thing, a man out there planting trees, and that's one of the things my brother and I have been doing. We've been planting trees on our property. I'll never sit in the shade of those trees, right? My time is going to come and go, but hopefully the grandkids will be able to swing in that tree someday, and they'll wonder how it got there. It got there because I planted it. It got there because I wanted it there. It got there because I cared about their future. And I'm almost getting emotional about this, but it's like we have to stop short-term thinking. It has to be visionary, bold, long-term, or we're never going to have the future our grandchildren deserve. A lot of this we screwed up. We made a lot of this mess. We can blame it on our grandparents and shit like that, but we have to look ourselves in the eye and go, I profited from this through the 90s. I did, and probably you did, and a lot of folks on here, when we watched our 401ks and IRAs go, woo, look at that, and we made silly decisions. Now we're going to have to go, all right, what do we got to do here, boys?
Exactly. Well, which founding father was it said, if there must be trouble, let it be in my time, so my children may know peace?
don't know if it's Jefferson or Thomas Paine, but they're
Somebody,
spot on.
it was one of those guys, and I wish I always remember this, but it's the same thing here. Trouble doesn't have to mean war or civil war or any of those things. It can be, oh wow, I'm not going to get quite the retirement I wanted. And as I put to people my generation, I'm mid 50s, so are you. It's our turn to be the grown-ups.
Damn right.
And sometimes that means you don't get to have fill in the blank toy or second home or the retirement you really hope for, so that your children can have better, grow up.
Yeah, because if we don't do something, and back to Anthony's point, and he says you guys have a great good conversation. I'm glad I found your channel, Anthony. I'm glad you're here because you're bringing some really good points this morning. And to Anthony's point earlier, the tariff thing does scare the shit out of me, because what happened in 1820? We had the crisis where Andrew Jackson levied like 50% tariff on British-made goods, and South Carolina threatened secession. Had nothing to do with slavery, everything to do with the economy, because if the tariffs are not done correctly, it could hurt certain sectors of our country more than others, some states more than others. So they have to be done like a surgeon.
Yes.
Now we got to be careful, or we will F this thing up.
Yep, absolutely. I want to highlight, oops, I hit the wrong one. Here we go. This Facebook user, sorry guys, that's all we're seeing. Tariffs must be targeted. Let's just take care of that right away. Yes, targeted. There's to the next one, endless currency wars, trade wars, or risky fights. All this is going to dovetail together. Right now, China's feeling a lot of pressure with Taiwan. They have their demographic problems. They have economy problems. There's a reason they are printing money, yen, like crazy. No, sorry, not yen, renminbi, and yuan like crazy right now in China. Their economy is not doing well. That's putting a lot of pressure on them. So if we slap tariffs too much too soon on the Chinese products, that's going to hurt their economy. And then where does that go? Right.
Yeah.
So they say it has to be done very surgically, and from a geopolitical standpoint, can't be done too quickly or be too targeted to a certain country. So this is going to have to be like, hey, in 6 months, this is going to kick in. And there's going to be those on the right who are like, no, I want it day before yesterday. No, you gotta get, it took a long time to get here. It's going to take a long time to get out. Just like when I dug myself out of debt in my 20s, like I know you did, brother. It took a long time to get there and a long time to get out. It's the same thing here. And so those of us on the right have to be patient with this as well. And I say on the right because those on the left are already against anything Trump's going to do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I point out on the right.
He could say free ice cream for your kids for life, and they'd be pissed off.
Yeah, exactly.
Trump wants to continue to mutilate cows, milking machines. Like, what the hell?
Oh God, you don't know my brain went on that one. So, yeah.
Can I talk about something real quick?
Please do.
I want to talk about. So we talked about the 16th Amendment, and of course, this is something I wish Trump would put on his agenda. The 17th Amendment. I look at 1913 like the year Congress lost its freaking mind, right? Because you got the 16th and 17th Amendment, and then you have the 18th after that. Of course, I didn't have a 1913, but my point is, in 1913, you talk about two amendments that really, like, you're forgetting the future of America, giving the Congress the ability to levy taxes, and they're unrestricted and all this shit. I'm like, you read that 16th Amendment, you're like, what are they thinking? Follow that by the 17th Amendment, and you really are hurting the states and the individual people. So we got to get this back. And to this point, tariffs and all these other things he can probably do with a stroke of the pen. But I want laws passed. It's not enough to come in and stroke a bunch of executive orders on day one, and we feel good and we crow for a while when we know they're going to override that shit. I want laws that take 2/3 majority to get rid of. I want this fixed long term, or we don't have a country.
I agree. I despise executive orders. We don't elect a king every 4 or 8 years to write executive orders. Absolutely not. I wish they were outlawed. I really do. And I didn't like it when Trump did it. I didn't like it when Biden did it. Obama, take your pick. And it gets worse every administration, partially because it becomes easier to use, but also they undo whatever the previous one did. So
yeah, we need to go back to executive orders It's National Maple Syrup Day. All right. The president comes out and he shakes hands with maple syrup executives, and there's a photo op and slinks back into the Oval Office. And there's his first and only executive order. Or give him, you got 13 during your 4-year period. Use them wisely.
Yep.
There's bullets,
Yep.
and we have to stop that.
Yeah, I agree, and that's all part of the power has been concentrated in the executive branch, as Anthony speaks to. Let me try English here. Speaks to in his comment. I couldn't agree more. That's not how the system's supposed to work at all, and things need to just chill out in that arena.
Mhm.
So, yep. So and so back to all this, whether we're talking about tariffs, the fight against inflation, deficits for sure. Somebody brought up deficits in there somewhere. Yep, got to get control of all that. But all those things bring pain because let's be realistic. The reason the economy has continued to grow and the stock markets continue to go up at least the last couple of years is this incredible deficit spending has been pumping money into the economy. So we have to be realistic about when that gets pulled back, we're going to see a recession because we would have had one already without the massive amounts of deficit spending. So that's just the way it is, guys. And that dovetails into my tinfoil hat time here coming up soon. Yeah.
Tinfoil hat. I love it.
Yeah. Can't find mine though. I got to go buy a new box of aluminum foil. So
you go through them so fast.
I do. Yeah. I mean, two or three a day. I mean, they just don't hold up, especially on the wind. They just don't hold up. So, yeah. So let's see here. What's the next slide? I can't even remember now.
Let's see. Well, before I get to that, I want to, one of the folks on here, and again, we've already apologized, but I have no idea who said it. They were talking about period accounting being one of the things that kind of really hurt America. And just if you don't know, period accounting just means during one period, whether it's a quarter, a fiscal year, a calendar year, whatever. And I understand we have to have it, but we need to really look at accounting practices overall. Look at what mark-to-market accounting did, how Enron misused and abused that, led to the downfall of Arthur Andersen and a lot of other things. We have to be really judicious, and you only come up with good accounting practices when you have a long-term idea of the future. And to that point, I understand that companies have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. I understand that, and I thank God for it, or I wouldn't have some of the money I have, right? However, let's always balance that with what's best for America, the country you happen to be sitting in, right? Because if we don't, then guess what? It's going to lead to all sorts of abuses. Anthony says Clinton and the early Tea Party Republicans did a good job balancing the budget without a recession. It can be done, Anthony, right?
Sure can. Yep. And to that point, the quarterly accounting, let's remember where this craze started at. It was actually, I'm glad Anthony brought up Clinton, because it started under Clinton, because during that period of time, there was a huge outcry over how much executives were making in these companies, CEOs, especially the CEOs making 842 times what the average worker makes. And so there's a lot of pressure to cut CEO pay. So they went, fine, I'll take a pay cut. I'll take stock options instead. And that was when we saw the big shift to what can we do quarter to quarter, year to year to drive the stock price. Before that, you heard very little about companies doing things that drive stock price. They did things to create a better business.
Can I talk
this is one of those things, unintended consequences, right? And that's what we need to look at. And everybody forgets about where this drove from.
So, being on marine recruiting for 14 years, you're like running a business. When I was a substation commander, I'm running the Marine Corps recruiting franchise in X number of counties, and I have this responsibility in these offices and all the logistical support, blah, blah, blah. And then I grew up into where my last position as a deputy director for operation in the entire Southeast United States. So it was the 6th Marine Corps district. Now, I'm saying all that to say it is just like running a business, with one exception. The Congress dictates our end state. So imagine you're running a business where the American people, Congress, says, this is what the end state of your business will look like. And then I build a plan to get where Congress mandates us to be. And in some way, I mean, not that we would ever want to do that, but with a thought for the future of not just shareholders, but the company as a whole. And that's why, I did not vote for Mitt Romney. I would never vote for Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, a lot of these other people, because I don't know. I could go on, and I'll stop there. I'm gonna get myself pissed off here.
Okay.
Whew. Let's
So,
go back to the show.
Yeah, I want to touch on Anthony's comment here. Clinton and the early two Republicans did a good job balancing the budget without a recession. And you know what? I'm not a fan of the guy's politics. So again, I'd probably have fun having a beer with him. But Clinton was very good at feeling where the wind was blowing from. And after the Republican takeover in '94 of Congress, he saw which way the wind was blowing from and what the people wanted.
Yeah.
And, so that was definitely a part of it, and credit to him. And I want to touch on this one a little bit here.
This
Stock
is your
buyback.
industry.
This is my
we're
jam,
whores
man.
of this.
That's
They-
it. This is, I agree, this should be completely illegal. And
Yeah.
the traditional
Can you
reason-
read it and explain it in case somebody?
Sure. Yeah. Stock buyback should be illegal, like before Reagan. This is from Anthony. The traditional reason for stock buybacks was when a company had excess capital and they felt that they ideally you'd want to invest money in your business to grow your business to get a return of, let's just say, I'm going to say 15%, just throwing a number out. But if you don't see that out there, then rather than parking your money in a savings account making 4% or a treasury making 5%, you buy your own stock back because you believe over time it'll go up more than that. That's the traditional reason for a stock buyback. Okay. That's not what's happening now. Now they do it because it drives the stock price up and makes the shareholders more money. And the shareholders they're worried about are themselves, the executives, and making Wall Street happy. So Wall Street keeps pumping money into company XYZ because they know the excess profits are going to go in there. So it's kind of like double dipping on the profits. First, the company reports the profits, then the company buys back the stock, supply and demand. That, if you will, drives the stock price up twice.
Yeah,
And
to
so
realize the profits.
Exactly. Now, then we haven't gotten here yet, but if we get a bad enough recession, these companies are sitting on a ton of their own stock. What happens when they get strapped for cash? Do they start selling their own stock and we get the same thing on the downside? It's possible. We've never been here before. We don't know. So yeah, glad you brought that up, Anthony. Thank you.
Yeah, well said.
So,
And this is the Trump effect, right?
Yep. And so Hamas calls for immediate end to war after Trump election win. I think it was 12 hours, if memory serves.
And the Houthis immediately suspended operations permanently.
Yep. And Putin says he's ready to sit down and talk. Now, in fairness with Putin, he may have been willing to talk before, but him and Biden didn't talk.
Hadn't talked for over 2 years.
Yeah. So now you can call this, well, hey, there's a crazy guy in office now. We better just chill out a little bit. That's what, maybe the left would say, because it's a way to bash Trump for this happening. But let's face it, it's a good thing. I mean, I'm not looking for war. I got military age kids, not looking to send them off to war. So,
I've seen this. I mean, we all have probably seen it in your job. Oh, God, there's a new manager coming in. We got a new CEO taking over in the Marine Corps. We got a new commander coming in. It's like, oh, anybody know anything about, Lieutenant Colonel Smith? Yeah, bro, this guy ain't going to play. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. He's going to NJP your ass if you get a DUI. He's all about your PFT score, how your fitness is. And you'd see guys out there the next day that hadn't lifted weights in years. And they're just like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And that's what the world is doing right now. They're like, oh God, new sheriff in town.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, it's going to be some changing times, which is going to cause angst on both sides of the political aisle. And I say that the left, it's obvious why. The right, I mean, change is still uncomfortable, right? And it's going to be, it's going to continue, the social media garbage, blah, blah, blah. So, all right.
I know
So
we're going along here, but before we close on the last slide, I do want to talk, because you opened the door for the Trump effect.
Yeah.
And one of the things that bothers me is right now, I was reading, I think Newsweek or something. It's like the promise of transparency or or a worrying witch hunt. And my point is, it's not revenge; it's called accountability. We haven't
Right.
had it in so long that people can't even recognize it for what it
Yeah.
truly is. And it
Yep.
reminds me of what is that? During the Civil War, a young private is brought before General Lee. You know, when he was head of the Army of Northern Virginia,
Mhm.
and he's standing before the general. This young private, he's trembling, and the general looks up from his papers and says, "You know, you have nothing to fear here. You know, son, you will find justice here." And the
Mhm.
young private says, "Yes, sir. That's what I'm afraid of." And I'm telling you, that's to
Yeah.
me. And I hate using the word deep state because it's a loaded term. It's a
Mhm.
made-up term. We can come up with a better one if you want, Will. But those bureaucrats, technocrats, you know, whatever people that are the little swamp, those critters are terrified. And man, you
Yep.
should be scared because
Yeah.
if you know that accountability's coming, it could be a scary time for you.
Absolutely. And look, and if Trump does what he is alluded to, I really didn't follow the election stuff that closely, guys. In past elections, I've driven myself a little crazy following stuff, and this time I looked at it and went, "Nothing's going to change who I'm voting for, so I'm just not going to follow it very closely."
Mhm.
So, you know, we know Elon went into Twitter and cut 80% of the staff, and last I checked, Twitter's still working.
Better than ever.
Yeah, the machine. I'll start with that. Calling it the machine. You know, is going to be scared if Elon gets in there and you know he gets the mandate, start cutting. There's going to be a lot of people who are scared, and they're going to find their way to get their pound of flesh on the way out the door if all that happens. So, you want to read this one off, brother, and then I'm going to give you my tinfoil hat.
Yeah. Our founding fathers weren't worried about specific types of firearms. They were worried about specific types of governments. I love that. I've never seen that quote before, but I love that quote.
So here's my tinfoil hat thing, and I can't
Mm.
find my tinfoil hat. I need to make a new one. So we know there's a lot of changes coming. We're in a fourth turning. That happens. We know there's going to be part of a fourth turning is social unrest, strife. We know we have a huge deficit problem, and we know interest rates are too high because inflation was too high. The only way historically interest rates come down precipitously and quickly is either a financial crisis or a really bad recession. We also have all these geopolitical problems going on. A lot of things are coming to a head all at once, all of which are going to cause problems. So did they let Trump win to forever tarnish his reputation if this is when things really go bad? I mean, let's face it, they could have found somebody better than Harris to put up there. Now, there's the argument to be made that because her name was also on the campaign contributions for Biden Harris, that when it became obvious Biden could not do it, there was an obvious legitimate reason to make her the candidate, because then they didn't have to worry about the campaign finance laws, right? Did they basically let him win because they know a lot of stuff's going to come to a head, and using the machine, the deep state, whatever we want to call it, they can massage these things to happen, look bad, look worse? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe there's something in here other than bang making me think this. I don't know. Could be any number of things, right? But
No,
you know, I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just throwing it out there to ponder on.
no. Man, and if you don't know
broke
what
up.
he's talking about,
Restart that. You broke up there.
yeah. Anthony says I'm nervous about an Archduke Franz Ferdinand. If you don't know what he's talking about, that's of course the assassination that led to World War I, and you could say every single conflict in the 20th century.
Yes.
You wouldn't have World War II without World War I. You wouldn't have Korea without World War I. You wouldn't have Vietnam without World War I. I can go all day long, and it all comes back to some leftist radical Gavrilo Princip. So if you look in history, who was the most important person of the 20th century? You know, you could say, the laundry list would be long. You know, Hitler, Churchill. I mean, JFK, Martin Luther King. The 20th century gave us so many amazing people, both good and bad. But it's Gavrilo Princip, because one leftist radical with a handgun touched off the deaths of tens of millions of human beings.
Yeah.
So I think he's absolutely right. I don't think we're out of the woods by any stretch, even when he gets inaugurated. And we haven't even got there yet. So for the next 70-ish days,
Mhm.
him and his team, the dream team, and we all know who they are,
Yeah.
Tulsi and RFK and Elon, and I could go on down the list. They need to be in a bunker with Eric Prince and the boys protecting them.
Yep.
I'm serious. It's a heart
Yep.
attack.
Yep.
And you know, hey, we'll do the inauguration from the bunker because I don't trust anything right now.
Yep.
And this idea of graciousness that we're seeing from the left, and again, we have abandoned partisanness for this show. We'll
Mhm.
try to get back to it at some point, but the graciousness I see on display to me is a ruse.
Mhm.
You don't go from 1 minute it's Hitler, 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 Hitler. Hey, we
Mhm.
want a peaceful transition of power. Come
Yeah.
to the White House. Come on down.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't like it. It scares the ever loving crap out of me as to what they may be playing some weird 4D chess that you and I can't see.
Mhm.
But anyway, I'm nervous about it, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And you know what? And I've worried about the Archduke Ferdinand moment as it applies to Trump. I mean, there's already been 2 credible attempts, right?
Mhm.
One darn near succeeded, right? And was it Secret Service incompetence? Was it whatever? You know, don't know. But I mean, inexcusable for sure. I mean, that sloped roof. Oh boy, that was nasty, right? So, I mean, find somebody in their 20s to put up there. I mean, if they fall off from that high, they bounce at 20 something. So, us old guys just break. But they're come on, seriously. And then the other one on the golf course. I mean, come on. I mean, this is I think this is a legitimate concern that Anthony brings up, and it's one I've shared. Now, obviously, don't want to see that happen to any president. Period. End. But we could do worse than President J.D. Vance as well.
Yeah.
So I guess that gives me some solace, as bad as it would be, because can you imagine the social unrest if it was a fill in, check all the boxes on the person that did it, right?
Mhm.
So it would be bad. Here's one for you, and I've got a little concern with this one. It brings up a legitimate point. James says Trump made billions from True Social stock this past week, and I laugh at that too. Okay. However, there's a conflict of interest in there somewhere. And now, if he just says, I'm going to hold the stock no matter what, totally cool with that. If he starts trading the stock and then doing things to run that stock price up and down, then I got a real problem with that. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's just going to hold it. He said he's going to hold it. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. You know, here's the thing. Trump is the 47th president is going to make enemies right, left, and center. You're going to go after, you're going to remove, his agenda is removing the inspector general's offices from the agencies that they're supposed to be overseeing, which is a fantastic idea because I've seen it abused. We have seen it abused. And then he's going to start moving a lot of, so what a great idea to drain the swamp by like, there's no reason for you to be here. FBI, well, let's get you out of there. There's no reason for you to be here. Let's get you out of the Beltway. Let's get you, let's move you out to Iowa. I freaking love that, man. And another thing is he's going to really go hard at the intelligence apparatus, and he's really going to go hard for term limits. Now you're pissed off Congress, the Senate, because these critters that make their living there, and you're going to, I mean, this guy's going to have a bullseye on his forehead from day one, to Anthony's point, from the right and the left.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So it's the next 4 years are going to be sporty. Buckle up. Be ready. It's almost like we've said that before.
I know, right? You want to go ahead and take us out on that note?
Sounds great. Fight's coming, guys. Be ready.